I'd love to get your thoughts on the iCar. How different would the world be if they had actually done something like that?
Yeah, I know. I mean, that was pretty remarkable concession. Now, I'm gonna guess that this was really just him saying what we did was we had this giant brainstorming session, thought about all the pieces of sort of moribund consumer products out there. You know, the eye washer, the eye dryer, the eye this, and you know, cars have to be top of the list. So you know, it wasn't so surprising that they talked about it. I just can't imagine that it went much further than that. I mean, there are all of these stale consumer categories, but one of the last ones you'd expect Apple to show up with any strong interest in was cars. But it at least shows you that they were at that point thinking about all of the categories that had stopped innovating and whether there was a role for Apple in sort of rebooting the innovation ecosystem in each of those areas.
Right. He sort of set up, you know, what led to Apple taking a risk on the iPhone in the first place. Of course, Samsung says they were working on a phone similar to the iPhone before the iPhone even came out. But how good of an argument is that really? You have to wonder if Samsung would have ever released it if the iPhone never came out.
Right. I mean, this is one of these things where it starts to become infinite regress. Like, so was I. I was working on one of those. You know what? I have a friend down the street. He was working on one, too. We were all working on one. And, you know, the reality was that they may have thought that they needed to do some kind of next-generation project. But next-generation projects get trapped inside of labs and never exit companies for a long, long time. Look at the story of Xerox and PARC. You know, here's a company that was, you know, the leader in laser printers, in mouse and graphical interfaces, and now I think their market cap is a little bit less than PetSmart. The reality is that companies that, even if they think about innovating, require something to drive them to bring the product to market. And quite clearly, the one who drove the innovation to market here was Apple. So whatever Samsung was thinking about, nothing happened until Apple brought the iPhone to market.
Right. Talk a little bit, Paul, about the importance not just of taking risks in technology, but executing well on taking those risks.
Right. I mean, this is one of the oldest things. You know, you always get this comment as I'm an early stage venture investor, and I get this all the time. Well, someone will say, I have a great idea for an XYZ, an app or something else. You know, my typical rejoinder is that's lovely, but you know, everyone has all sorts of ideas. The thing that differentiates the ideas from something that actually makes people money and changes people's lives is your ability to execute on an idea. Ideas are cheap, easy, and you know, and seductive. The reality is the people who create all the value, and Steve Jobs at Apple is a great example, is someone who takes an idea, even one that might have been at Samsung and other places in some nascent form, and then took the risk, brought it to market, and executed so well that it created a product that, you know, millions and millions of people around the world wanted to buy. That's the rare thing, the execution, not the idea.
Now, we talked to an IP lawyer, Paul, who thinks that this case could go all the way to the Supreme Court simply because of this whole idea of whether design itself can be patented. Where do you see this case going?
Yeah, I think absent some kind of settlement, and you know, Steve Jobs suggested before he passed that this was something that he wanted to see litigated aggressively. So I don't see it getting settled. But nevertheless, absent a settlement, this is a very contentious area of IP law and a very contentious area in Silicon Valley. You know, where is the line there? Where is the bright line, or even the not so bright line, between patentable IP and design and business processes? And this comes up over and over and over again, has never really been adequately settled, and continues to be litigated as a result, has been pushed up at least twice to the Supreme Court. And this looks like another case that will take yet another dimension of this same problem all the way to the Supreme Court again. Absent settlement, I think that's where this ends up.